Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so pleased and honored and excited to be in conversation with Yadanar Win, one of the members of 3AM. As we know, 3AM is the featured artist for Time Sensitive, an exhibition at the Tefra Institute of Contemporary Art. So welcome, Yadanar. How are you doing?
Hello, Adrian, and hello, everyone. I am Yadanar and I'm an artist from 3AM, one of the member, and also I'm from Myanmar, and I am very honored to be participate in our work in time-sensitive exhibition. And thank you very much, Adrian, and thank you very much, Tempera Contemporary Art.
Yeah. And can you let folks know what's your situation right now? Where are you and what's this past year been like for you?
I am currently now in south of Germany in a city named Rothenburg. It's around Baden-Württemberg area as a resident artist in the theater performance program, and I was arrived here in Germany in 20th of April. So it's very recently, and I was in Myanmar when there was a coup. Coup had happened on the 1st of February. And yes, actually, I was in the Europe for another art residency before coup had happened. Coup had happened, but because of COVID, I was stuck in Europe, and after that, I go back to Myanmar. And also, one of the reasons to work with 3AM to create new work as we plan, and then I so there was a coup in Myanmar on 1st of February. And yes, about the coup. So it was a very like a nightmare for us. I remember what had happened in the 1st of February. All internet were blackout, and our elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi and her NLD member were arrested. Uh, Now we don't know where she was detained. And then in the around 3 days later, whole people in Myanmar are in the street protesting to reject the military coup. And it was day by day, month by month, it's getting worse and worse situation. Now it has been uh, 8 months, so nearly 9 months, 8 months already, nearly 8 months already, February. So 7 months. So because of now it's annual 8 months, and over 1,026 people were killed shooting by military, and 7,627 people were arrested, and 6,005 people are stay in the prison, and then 1,984 people are in warrant list. And most of my friends, including artists, are now in the PDF People Defense Force camp in the forest because of the afraid of getting caught by military because of their uh, protests and their movement or reject on military. And all the situation in Myanmar, the economy, healthcare, education, everything is getting slower and slower and getting worse and worse. And we all are around the world and also inside the country and outside the country, we still are fighting and against military till today.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I remember, well, we met a few years ago when I had a chance to visit Yangon. And of course, this was before the military coup, but I was still learning a lot about the history of
Mhm.
civil war and the power struggles that have been happening for decades. And So when I saw the posts start showing up on Facebook and Instagram, um,
mm,
you know, it was a really, you know, I mean, it continues to be a really dire situation. But I remember just in February how much, you know, how much noise there was being made from Myanmar, especially activists and artists. And
mhm.
so I wonder, you know, like you and Kolat and Mae have been doing, you know, really important and urgent work for a long time, even before the coup.
Mm.
What is the role of artists in the movement right now?
Yes, we started our work as 3M 2016 is after NLD, this elected government for democracy. They win the election, but still at that time the country is, we can say, have democracy and have a dictator, because dictator has absolutely power even though they name it democracy, because they got the seat in the parliament and they have a bigger hand on the economy. And also Myanmar is a very strong culture and traditional background and very religious country. So, and we will have this dictatorship since our parents died around like 1962. So it was all we faced with how we grew up with this dictator reign, with this limited on freedom of censorship and human rights. So our work has always been about our society and how we oppress as a human being, and the military win and discriminated as a woman artist or as a homosexual artist. So we three want to portray about it and we play with the material. At the same time, we are looking for the medium which can express our emotion through art, looking for aesthetic, innovative, and artistic way of delivery message of our society to the world. And uh, for your question, in this during this period, especially after February 1st coup, and a lot of artists, painter, cartoonists, poets, performers, film and musicians, they express their strong way against dictatorship and about the coup in Myanmar, and through the social media, through internet, and to the world. And because of that, some of them were arrested, some of them got even killed, and still we are fighting with what we have. And then we are speaking to the world about what is happening in our country. So yeah, with art, the artist's role is for the social justice with the weapon of art, and we are fighting. So, and I thought that our voices need to be heard, as you know, now is being over 7 months, and the war is less and less pay attention of what is happening now in Myanmar. So it is that we are not okay and well, that we are still struggling, and then the situation are getting worse and worse. So, and the military, they keep on killing the young people and they keep on arresting. So we would like to ask, and especially with this the chance to speak out, and now we have chance to tell you the message like this. So, and then we would like to tell everyone to be with us in this fight.
Mm, mm. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Yadanar. I mean, yeah, like you said, the attention span sometimes for world events can be very short, and so sometimes when you stop seeing something in the news, uh, people assume that it's not as serious anymore, or that maybe it's over. But
Mm,
obviously, that's not true. You know, like of course, in in
Mhm.
2020 in the US, there was a lot of big protests, a lot of demonstrations around police violence against Black
Mhm.
folks out here,
Mhm.
the killing of George Floyd, Breonna
Mhm.
Taylor.
Mhm.
Um, but now that it, there's less news around the protests, that doesn't mean that the violence has ended, right? And
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
think, ever since February, there's been a lot of big news um, around Palestine and more recently around Afghanistan. But of course, all these things are happening at the same time, and in some ways,
Mhm.
they're connected, right? Around
Yes. Yes.
power and resources.
Yes, that's
So
true. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it is important that people know that what's happening in Myanmar that began in February, it's still happening. And I mean, when for me in the US, I think what was really helpful in staying informed was seeing the videos that people were posting online. And
Mhm.
I think one of the things that was really powerful to me was that you have a lot of uh, protests and demonstrations that are woven in with art and performance. And I remember even
Mhm.
seeing videos of you and the other members of 3AM on the streets demonstrating.
Mhm.
Can you describe to people sort of what that environment was like? Like how were people in the community
Mhm.
responding to the art during the protests?
Yes. So in this after like near 3 days after the coup had happened, and then people are starting to go out, and then our like contemporary another group of artists, we are like discussing about what is the role of art in this matter. So this first movement could be said as artists drawing on the street roadside to sell their artwork to support a civil disobedience movement. Civil disobedience movement is in Myanmar is a very important. Still currently, people are still practicing now. Uh, it is the some of the government staff don't go to work and work for military, so new military wing, so they stop working. So because of they stop working, they have no money for. And so firstly the artists in this AMCA, Association of Myanmar Contemporary Art, is a newly found a group of artists, painter, performance, and uh, contemporary artists, visual artists. They draw, they paint, and they sell it, and they make donation to this the people who decided to be involved in the civil disobedience movement. So this is the first artist movement that we practice, and in there are also performance artists evolved, and also there are also filmmaker and also photographer. So they are also uh, protest at the same time. Also they are doing their role of selling their artwork to really support this CDM people, and also people who will be affected in war displaced area, because as you know, there are also the civil war in other area Myanmar. In because of this coup, it is it getting intense and intense, and and also they are more against the military. So artists are still, we are now not on the street anymore, but on online. We selling our artwork, and we try to make exhibition, and we donate as much as we can with the organization and as a individual group. And also we as a 3AM in especially in Minigong area at the early days of February, before the massive shooting started. So this Minigong bridge is the main gathering point for people to protest. People sing there, reading poetry, and they do art installation, and they show any way that they can to reject the coup and to against the military. So we were doing at this time that performance art, all of us in a for 2 or 3 days consequently. and we stop when there is a massive shooting. At that day, there is uh, around 24 or 25 people they killed in
Mm.
only alone in Yangon. They shoot in the head.
Wow.
So at that time we stopped going on the street, but we still doing underground movement in the graffiti, and also we as a 3 a.m. We also walking try we discuss each other and how we can create artwork in this period, and it's the situation or the security for everyone inside Yangon is getting tighter and tighter, because after the February, they check everyone who go out. They stop the car, and the soldier and police are on the street with the gun and they guarding. And if even we go out and meet for a meeting, there is a they stop the car and they check if you are involved in this
Mm.
political uh, like a or artwork or like political message or something like that. They check it if you involve, or if you are in the protest, you are in the jail.
Mm.
So
Wow.
yeah, and at the same time, there in the social media, I've never saw there's so many created artwork, which is representing about this freedom of human right, the freedom and human right, and against the dictatorship, and also a lot of cartoon is on all over social media, and also the musician they create sounds about this, and also the filmmaker they are taking any like creating work with what they can, and they're documenting, and also very brave photographer, and they post on the for social media and for the world to see what is really happening inside Myanmar.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's so much art coming out, and it's really beautiful. I think especially because even trying to post online has been a struggle, right? Like sometimes there's been
Yes,
internet shutdowns.
yeah,
Things like that.
yes,
So
yes.
mhm.
Yeah, it's a very difficult, and also it's getting internet insecure. They are also shut down, and also there is when the military when they give warrant arrest list, they use the profile picture of Facebook. So it's
Mm,
very like, so people has to lock their profile, so because they
mm,
even checking with the profile, and also the maybe the messenger are not safe, people say. And now
mm,
because of it's been over 7 months, and then now people are try to protest and try to against the military in other ways, so it's the security are more like more tight. And yeah,
mm,
I heard, I
mhm,
just read the news this morning, and then now they like before was they only check the like own car, or like if people driving, if they think this is okay not right, then they stop. But now they check everyone, they check the bus,
mm,
they check the motorbike, like everyone, and also they check people houses at night without any
mm.
warrant.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's getting worse, and it's also getting worse human rights violation.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it's a really difficult circumstance, and I think especially talking to you and you know like it's been difficult to communicate, time to communicate with Kola and Mae because sometimes they are
Mm,
out in the forest and don't have access to the internet. But I'm really thankful that I just heard from Kola and he's doing well. Um,
mm,
but yeah, it's also difficult to have these conversations because sometimes we want to be very optimistic and hopeful,
mm,
but at the same time we have to be realistic with
mm-hmm.
the reality of the situation. And
Yes,
it is getting worse, right? And
yes, yes.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
getting
I appreciate that you're sharing these three works, and two of them were created during the coup.
mm-hmm.
um and then you're also going to be showing at the Asia Pacific Triennial in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so this work is showing to international audiences. Um, and it seems very clear what the work is meant to communicate for other people in Myanmar. But when it comes to people seeing your work in a gallery or in a museum in another country, what is it that you are looking to convey, and how do you hope that people respond who are seeing this and who maybe have never been to Myanmar or are just learning about Myanmar right now?
Mm-hmm. So, as like our work, as you see, is about this the Everest, and the first one is before the coup. The um, it was at that time the first work is after 2016. We know performance art collective group working together, because in Myanmar, in people are individually, they are working, especially as a performance artist. So we got this idea to be working together. So we want to be improvise, and we want to try out with the body, and we want to try out with the materials. And at the same time, when we are walking, we want to give some message to the people, to the audience, that our strong emotion feeling and what we want to talk about. And as you see, this the two other work with Everest, and then Civil War is we're talking about this, the coup, why the coup had happened in this. Myanmar is going to the right way democracy, and in a very good transition toward to a positive improvement, despite the fact that there is still civil war and also Rohingya issue that we really have to be handled it. But with this COVID and everything, things are in control and in under Aung San Suu Kyi government. But then this the coup leader, he was so greedy, and he already exploit our country resources for decades, but he want more. So that's how the coup is started, because of one greed and one ego. So in this in our performance, we would like to convey about this movement, and with this the greediness of taking is as a group of this military general, that they want more and more. They don't care who die, how people were poor, or how innocent life were sacrifices, like so we want to do also with this material, with this cloth, and also with this body movement of fighting and taking, like it's more like this our concept with this body and material, and this message of this the coup had happened because of this extreme greediness, like the
Mm,
uprise is the meaning of extreme greediness. And then at the same time, we also practice about this movement of body to be more intensely strong. And then we create a video in the studio. And we usually, our style of work also, we sometimes work with the audience, and also we work in the studio to as a together.
mm, mm,
And also another work, Civil War. Civil War is about this. It is like in the war. It is we are uh, eating together, but then we are all are like in the same country. We supposed not to be fight with each other. Like even like our we have the eight ethnic city, Karen, Karen, Chin, Bama, Marakai, this ethnic. But now in Myanmar situation, they all are fighting against each other. But especially they fighting to Burma military. But they also
mm,
in between, some of the group are not with together. Then this
mm,
is the kind of humanitarian, but it's in a, so like especially may think of tell the event that in a story in an event that the two soldier in the border, they eating together, but they are in the different troop, like different
Mm,
rebel troop, and then they were happy eating together, but after all they have to fight. So
mm,
so something like that. And then what we left in the end was everything was destroyed.
yeah.
So so the land, and then because of every time the war is happening, what left is a lot of blood and a lot of destruction, and then a lot of life was sacrificed. And yeah,
Mm,
so in the work civil war that want to portray of this kind of this tension, and also this concept of what is happening what is happening right now in our country.
Yeah, I mean, they're all such powerful works, and especially the way that Civil War,
Mhm.
closes with you going back into repair, right,
Yeah.
and trying to piece things back together. I feel like that's really the work that you and Kola and Mae and so many of the other artists and activists are doing right now. So
Mm.
I really appreciate you sharing this work. I'm hoping that this exhibition is an opportunity for not only people in Reston, Virginia, but also in the United States and
Mhm.
throughout the world who are able to tune in um, to this exhibition to just learn more about what's going on and to remember that like for all the things that are happening around COVID, around the country, in the US, and all the things that we're seeing happening throughout the world in the news, that these are all connected, and
Mhm.
I feel so grateful to have met you and the other artists because it gave me a personal connection, a real emotional anchor when I saw what was going on in February. And this exhibition is just one of the ways that we're hoping to respond to what's going on.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah, thank you. Is there anything else you want to add or say to the people tuning in before we close this conversation?
So yes, and as we 3 a.m. are very grateful and happy to be have chance to show our work in the gallery, and also in the walk with you, and uh, like to speak this message that that we are like all of us, we all Myanmar people are still fighting. So we will really need your support, at least like you concern, even in this in terms of social media or what is happening in Myanmar, and stand by the side of democracy, and our fight. It will be really really thanks to you. And then this and also what we are doing, what is happening now in Myanmar is the new government against military, is the NUG, National Unity Government, because of the NLD is in the detain all this NLD member. And so there's new government arise called NUG, National Unity Government. So all the people in US, please recognize new NUG government, National Unity Government, and
Hmm,
it is a strong help for us if you do this.
hmm. Thank you so
And
much,
also
Yadanar.
US government. Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, US
yeah, yeah.
government and US people. US citizen of US people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really takes. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we say democracy, right? It's like it really
Mhm,
takes us as individuals to come together and and to really just recognize that the same things that we're fighting for in a country like the United States around equality, around resisting state-sanctioned violence. These are things that people are fighting for all throughout the world. So
mhm. Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
Thank you so much, Yadanar. I appreciate you taking the time, tuning
My
in your evening all
pleasure.
the way from Germany. And yeah, and sending you the best, and also
Thank
wishing
you.
the best to Kola and Mai.
Yes, yes. I will send your regards to them, and also thank you very much for arranging this.